In this video, we're going to go over the progress page and the career plan. So to begin, once you create a applicant, and when you add a customer in the system, complete the application, we have the progress page here. So the progress page provides an overview of several different items showing the customer's progress throughout CEJA. The first item to note is off to the left-hand side, we see the customer's information. This includes their email, date of birth, SSN if provided, their workNet username, phone number, most recent credential earned, the status that they have in the system, the address, and their Illinois workNet ID. You can also send a message or reset their password if they are unable to log in and don't remember. Below this, we also have participant summary tools linking to different parts of the system, including assessments, case notes, credentials, training services, uploads, and work sites. And we also have instructions here on the customer progress tab. Going back up to the top, we have this refresh status button. Every night we have a sync that will update, look at the most recent updates to the system and apply changes to the flags or information provided, but we'll see what that looks like as we go along. So this customer here, for the first one, we have intake. And if we click this info bubble, and for each of these rows here, there's an info bubble, we'll see a little window open up that will explain what action is needed or why a flag is the color that it is. So if it's gray, no action is needed for that row or item. And in this case, for intake, if it's gray, the customer is not going to be enrolled in the program. If it's yellow, which it is now, it means that the intake is not complete. So we still need to do career assessment, the service needs assessment, and it looks like we have completed the application, but we'll need to finish out a couple of those items there. If it's red, the intake has not been completed within 10 days of the customer being added into the system. And if it's good, if it's green, that means those items have been completed. Because we've gone over the intake, completing the intake tab in another video, we won't include that here, but I have made updates. And if we refresh the status button, what we're going to see is what I had previously mentioned, happens overnight. So as you make changes in the system, if you make them an intake or career plan or referral, and you come back to this page, but it seems the same, like it hasn't updated, keep in mind that there's a timestamp here when the data was last updated. So I paused the video, made some changes to intake, and if I hit this refresh status button, we'll see that we're now good for intake as those items have been completed. So career assessment is good, service needs assessment is good. We've completed those items. See, scrolling down, we have referral status. We covered that in another video, how to submit that for this customer. We don't need it, but just to quickly go over the flags. In this case, it's gray, no action for no referral being required. If it's a red flag, that means a referral has been sent. You're still awaiting a response, or the referral has not had a response within 10 days of being sent. So both of those within 10 days. And then if it's yellow, that means it has been sent and the response is pending. We don't have a response yet. So when you send it, it'll turn yellow. And after 10 days, if there's really no change or update, then it will become red. And if it's green, that means the referrals have been sent and they've been received as accepted or rejected. In our next section here, we have other participation requirements. So at the moment, we have this first item here, Employment 101 Guide and Post-Assessment Not Completed. That's what is yellow here with a Illinois WorkNet account. And we'll get into this in a separate video. With an Illinois WorkNet account, the customer will be able to log in and complete the Employment 101 guide and post-assessment that we have. And once they complete that, this attention flag will turn from yellow to green. For attendance requirements, we have a simple yes or no button if the customer is meeting attendance or not. If it's green, that means it's good that they are. If it's yellow, that means that they're not meeting the attendance requirements. And at the moment, we're also meeting the post-assessment requirements, which is good, but that kind of goes a little bit more into the career plan section here, those assessments. All right, and so the next section is the career plan. And so the career plan we have, once a customer is added into the system, we have goals and services that are automatically populated into their career plan. And that's what we are seeing with these services here. So to access the career plan, we'll scroll to the top here and click this career plan tab. We can also click this view edit button. And if we do that, that'll take us directly to where we are going to be editing and updating the services, and if need be, adding more. And so if we go here, and this is in the career plan under step 3, we will see that step 1, we have adding, and we have a button here to add services. In the drop down, we have the services broken out by different types that you can make a selection from, and the list will filter down based on the selection. So here's our training services, here's our transition services, student support, and so forth. And we'll just add one service here. How about tutoring, study skills training, and dropout prevention services? So to add it, we'll just simply click the add button, the add text there, click the button. And so we added the service in step 1, and now it's placed in step 2, which is assign activity services to a goal. If you need to delete a service, you can press this X, this red X here, but to edit it, you'll click this pencil icon. And that'll take you to the first tab where you will update the information here. So we'll assign it to a goal. Let's say we'll use this for completing a training program. We'll have the plan start date, have that be today, with the plan completion date at the end of the month. We'll also add the number of, or the average weekly hours we'll be spending on it. And then for status, we'll update it to started open. And once we have that information entered, we'll scroll down here and select the update customer service button. We have a case note. And so we'll enter the title of the case note and enter the text in the body of the case note. And then you can send the case note as an Illinois workNet message that's tied directly to the user's account when they log in. You can also send it as a message and an email, or you can just save the case note without sending a message to the customer. So we'll add the case note, and we'll see that the service has been successfully updated. And if we go back by selecting this add activity services, we'll see that the service moved from step 2 into step 3 under the goal, which is what this purple bar is, the goal right here. So it's a 1, 2, 3 process. So we can see that the service has started, it's open, and here is the start date and the date of when it was last updated. And so that's how you can add a service manually. But I do want to go back to this first tab of the career plan. So if we select this career plan tab, the first page that we'll see is the plan overview, which provides a summary, kind of a bird's eye view of where the career plan is with several different items. So we do have that profile information, related instructions, and links to the other tools here. We have a section where you can print the career plan. You can also update the plan agreement. And below we have a few sections here for assessments that are in desired career paths that are tied to tools that we have that are not within the CEJA system, but they're more tied to the customer's Illinois workNet account. These are assessments that they can complete. The Employment 101 that we mentioned, that will show their status and their pre and post-assessment for Employment 101 and any careers that they've identified that they're interested in. We also have their accomplishments. So as we're adding credentials, completing services and goals, this total will be updated here. And below here with our career plan section, we have our goals. These are the ones that every customer is going to have when they're added into the system: complete a training program, complete digital and financial literacy, get a job, and get into a registered apprenticeship program. And we'll see that when we open the show next steps, that'll show the services that are tied to that goal. And here's the one that we just added and made updates to. And our next tab, review assessment. If there's any assessments that the customer needs to take, maybe language or math or reading, or anything that is an assessment that's not included within Illinois WorkNet, that can be added and looked. You can search through the different assessments through this Add Assessments Results section here. But any assessments that are within Illinois WorkNet, they'll populate here as the customer completes them. They may not be necessary for the customer's participation in the program, but if they do complete some of these service or assessments, they'll populate in here. And the service needs assessment is one that we completed on intake, and that'll provide a link to the assessment that we completed, along with the career assessment and the application as well. The second tab here for set goals, this is where the goals can be edited or added. So in the career plan, we have those: get a job, get into registered apprenticeship program, complete training program, and complete digital and financial literacy. Those are these purple bars that we're seeing here. So we have to tie a service to a goal. And so if we need to, edit the goal, maybe tweak the language a bit, we can click edit, make the text change. We can change the category. Is it a short or long-term goal? And what's the status of that goal? So that can be updated in the window here very quickly. So that's how you can edit one, and adding one is the same window. You would just enter the statement, select the category, short and long-term option, and the status as well. And then you would click Save Changes, and then you'd be able to assign a service to it. And just a quick note that if the service or the goal has services in it, you cannot remove it. It'll ask you to change the services to a different goal. We also have this update log. This is just a record of what changes were made to the career plan. Where was the change made? What was the action? What was the date? And which user made those changes? But going back to our tab here for adding steps and services, we can see that we have a few other services that we need to update. And so if we go back to our progress page, if we refresh this, we won't see too many changes here, except the addition of the service that we added, its status, the date range, and good is where that stands. But for the career plan, so if we're going to go over the different flags here. So good, green, which would mean that the service start and completion statuses meet the deadlines set within the start end dates. That, for example, so the service would be successfully completed. We're all good and squared away. In this case, we have yellow, which means it needs attention. And there's at least one service that does not have a start or end date identified, and there are no other red flags. So a lot of these services, plan not started. So we need to update those in order to change this from yellow to green. And then we'd have a red flag if the module or if the service is not started or completed, and it does not meet deadlines set within the start and end dates. So we need to make changes to the career plan, and that will change the flags on the progress page. Okay, so I have made changes. Pause the video to make changes to avoid updating all of our services here, but we'll still cover how to make get those main points. So With those updates, we can see that we're now in good standing. They have a status, they're all within their date ranges. We haven't gone past them. And if we go back to where we can update them, we can see successful completion for a lot of these. But Clean Energy Basics is one that we have started open that we still need to update. So to trigger a red flag, for example, if I were to change the dates of this service to, let's say, July 31st. Oh, okay. So, well, here's a message that may pop up. The planned start date of a service must be on the date of the application that it was submitted. So, created this customer yesterday. They would, the earliest their start date would be, based on when the application was submitted, would be July 31st. So we couldn't, backdate a service here. And if we tried to update it with the same date, I believe we'll also get the note that there has to be at least 1 day for the, I might have to refresh this here. It looks like there's an update going on, so I'll pause this. Sorry about that. There was a update to the test environment that paused things, but back to where we were. So what I wanted to note is if you have, the system will also prevent you from updating the service if you have the same start and end dates. I believe there will be a message, yes, that the due date must be at least 1 day after the start date. But if the, yeah, I won't be able to replicate with this customer because I added them yesterday, but if they had a service, so we would have a red flag if the service that we're looking at, this Clean Energy Basics, if the start date was, let's kind of do a hypothetical here. If we started July 3rd and it was July 26th, but we had a status of started open, the system will recognize that today, August 1st, that you're past the date you said you would complete this, and that would be what would trigger a red flag for a service here. But in this case, we're just going to update it to a different date here. But for our training services, we do have other tabs that I want to take a look at. So we have the service provider. This would be, who is the provider that is providing the service for this customer. So we have it set to default no provider. You'll also see the name of your organization and address here. That can be selected. If it's a WIOA provider, you can select that and search through our list here, then press the select button. Or if there's a different provider, you can enter in their name and their address information here. But in this case, we'll say it is the Hub North test organization that we have. So we'll click save to add the case note. And we'll see that we have our updated dates. We're still started open. And on the service provider tab, we have the Hub North option here. I want to note too that there are, for training services, there is a post-assessment threshold that is 70%. So in order to pass a assessment and to be able to mark a assessment as successfully completed, 70% is the benchmark for training services. And we are updating it so that if, depending on your program, if it's, 80% or a different score, you'd be able to come in here and enter and save that. But it will default to 70% when we have that update out there. But to add the assessment, you'll click the add post-assessment button and you'll enter the name of the assessment, the score, let's say 95, and the date we'll have today, and we'll click save. And then for earn credentials, we do have the earn credentials tab here, and we'll have these automatically populated here for OSHA 10, First Aid CPR, and CCER Core, and Trades Futures MC3 certifications. You can also add one manually. So if you add one manually, we'll click this button here and the window will open up, or it will enter in this information. So we'll have the name, the credential source, the date it was attained, the credential type, the institution it is from, and then a description of the credential. And then once we have that information entered, we'll just click save and we'll see it populate into the table. And for these ones that we have, defaulted here, all we need to do is click the button of say, we earned an OSHA 10 certification from completing this training service. All that information will be populated. We'll just need to enter in the credential source and then the date it was attained, and then we can click save. And if we need to tweak, the language or the name or the description, you can certainly do so here, but we'll click save and we'll see that gets added to the service as well. So going back to our status default tab, we need to mark this service now as being successfully complete. Change the completion date, and then we'll leave a case note here. And then we'll see that the service has been updated. So going back to our progress page, if we refresh the status here, we will see that we'll see a couple different things here. Okay, so we're still good for, we're good in the career plan for credential. We'll come back to the service needs assessment and other wraparound services section, but for the earned credential section, this was previously yellow, but now it is green for good, and it shows the credential name and the date it was attained. And for the info bubble, it's pretty straightforward here. Green means the credential was earned and added to the system. Yellow means the credential hasn't been added yet. The customer is completed or withdrawn from their program, but the credential was not entered into the system. And if it's gray, the customer has no training service and no credentials. So pretty straightforward there. But we did go over how to add costs and services in the other wraparound services, but we'll go ahead and do that real quick by navigating back to our career plan and adding a, let's see. We'll be adding a service with a cost to it. Okay, so to add the cost here, needed to add in this vary reduction service. So we'll add that here into the career plan. And then we'll click the icon to edit, and we'll assign it to a goal. Enter in those dates, and give it a status of started open. Under a case note there. But then we'll go to the dollar value of service. And so to add the cost, we'll select this button to add the service cost. And a window will open up where we can enter in this information. So we'll select the service type. And in this case, we needed housing assistance. And we'll see in the service subtype below that the options here are tied to the service subtype. So these are all related to housing. If we selected transportation, we'll see that these are all related to transportation and so forth. But for housing, we needed assistance with rent. So we'll enter that, and we'll enter the payment method, the payment start date, the individual payment cost, the number of times it will be offered, if it's a cost estimate, who it was paid by, and the split payment. And then we'll click save, and we'll see that it has been entered successfully. And so back on our progress page, if we refresh the status here, we'll see that in this section, we are green for good. We'll see that the rent has been added here along with the total. And if we add another service, we'll just do this another cost. We don't need to add a brand new service. We can just enter in another cost on that same service. And we just enter this real quickly here, and we can pay the cost. And if we refresh this one more time, we'll see that the other cost that we added for parking has been added here, and there's a grand total down here. And similar to the earn credential, it's gray, no actions needed. Yellow needs attention, that a service is still needed based on the service needs assessment that was completed. And for this customer, they needed assistance with rent. And green is good, which means that the service need has been addressed by entering in that cost for the career plan. And we have one last section here, but we'll cover the program completion status in another video. But red flag means they're not complete. When they are complete, it would be green, and if the customer has been withdrawn, it would be a gray flag for no action being needed. And that is an overview of the career plan and the progress page for the CEJA reporting system.